Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Pyle, and I am the founder of HireMyMom.com. Today, I'm super excited to have Angie Moody, the CEO of Ruby Money, with me to tell us all about her awesome company and what she does. So thank you, Angie, for coming on and sharing about your business and what you're doing.
Thank you, Leslie. Excited to have a chat with you and share a little bit more about our journey with your community.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your professional journey and what led you to leave the corporate world and ultimately become an entrepreneur and small business owner.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. I think all of us, I think we grow up believing that there's these linear journeys that we do one thing and it leads to the next thing. And then, I think as we get older, we realize that that's not the case, that journeys take multiple form, and mine is similar to that. So, I spent the first half of my career pursuing corporate executive positions. So I worked for many years at large technology companies. I was at Capital One, where I built the consumer banking digital team for many years. I also spent time at Instagram, which is part of Facebook, or Meta, as they now call it, working with creators and small business owners and helping make Instagram a better platform for small business owners. Before joining both of those companies, I got my MBA at Stanford. And while I was at Stanford, I was very involved in the entrepreneurial community and startups, but felt that I really, for me, needed to get more experience. And I think we all kind of struggle with that imposter syndrome. And so after after spending a few years at Instagram, I realized that I was really ready for a change. I really wanted to try something new. And like many working mothers, after 15 years of putting in those long hours and lots of travel, had kind of burnt myself out and had realized that the view from the top wasn't exactly as sweet as I thought it would be. And I didn't really want to continue on that path. So I took time off. And while I was doing that, I took on a couple fractional roles with small startups who were anxious and excited. I shouldn't say anxious. They were excited to learn from people who had built teams at larger companies. I really enjoyed that work immensely and started to envision a potentially different career path for myself. So rather than building large teams and large companies, what would it be to work with early stage entrepreneurs and really help them build their businesses? Really enjoyed that work and did it for a little bit over a year until I started Ruby Money. And so at that point, I realized that and we'll kind of dig into it. I don't want to talk too much at once, but at that point, I realized that there was a product and a problem that I was really passionate about that I wanted to start myself. And after spending a year working with these early stage entrepreneurs, I gained the confidence that I really was the right person to be able to do that. And I kind of jumped in and decided to start Ruby Money for myself.
Wonderful. So I know that's what everybody's wanting to know. What is Ruby Money and what is it for? How does it help people? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's probably some helpful context for the call. So Ruby Money is an app that simplifies taxes for self-employed individuals. And so as we all know, there's only two things certain in life: death and taxes. And if you are self-employed or run your own business, you probably spend more time than you ever thought you would thinking about Uncle Sam and taxes. And that definitely was my experience during the time that I was a consultant and self-employed. Up until that point, my company took care of taxes for me, right? I was on a W-2, and so they handled all the payroll taxes, and I just, logged in a TurboTax, submitted my taxes at the end of the year, easy breezy. Well, enter the world of self-employment and taxes become a lot more complicated. And so inspired by some of the experiences that I had self-employed and the struggles that I had figuring out how taxes worked and paying taxes, and ultimately losing about $12,000 of my consulting income by making tax mistakes, I realized that there needed to be a simple way. So Ruby Money ultimately's goal is to help you profit more and stress less by automating the complicated, expensive parts of self-employed taxes so that you always stay on track and preserve as much of your hard-earned profit as you can as an entrepreneur.
Right. I think it's so important because many of us are gifted and talented in our area of expertise, but unless you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, taxes are probably not your area of expertise. So that's why I'm so excited for our audience to learn more about Ruby Money, because I think it can be such a benefit for them to take that off of their, to-do list, worry list, or whatever, and have something that makes that process so much easier. So you mentioned you made mistakes early on. So what are some of the top mistakes that you see self-employed individuals make?
Yeah, and I think this is really important because, like you said earlier, we're experts in our craft. Whether that's being a designer or a bookkeeper or, whatever it is that we've built our business to do. But that doesn't mean that you're going to know everything about running a business. And if you are self-employed, you have to be, your head of finance, your head of accounting, your head of tax, your head of marketing, your head of sales, your HR head. It can be exhausting wearing all of those hats. And so it's definitely easy to make mistakes. And, the first year that I received a 1099, I also got at the end of the year a massive surprise tax bill. I simply learned too late that self-employment taxes are much higher than traditional taxes because you're responsible for both sides of the payroll tax when you're self-employed. I also missed the opportunity to contribute to retirement, take other tax deductions. And at the end, like I said, I lost over 12 grand of profit that should have, gone to me and my family. And I felt ashamed and I felt embarrassed about that, having an MBA and working for Capital One. I said, wow, this is just really, shocking that I made this many mistakes. And the more I talked to, the more I heard the same story over and over again. And so really the big mistakes that I see people making, the first one is not understanding upfront what self-employment taxes are and building that into your rate structure.
Right.
And so self-employment taxes are a flat 15%, and that's on top of your federal and state income taxes. And so when you're charging someone a rate, maybe you're charging $50 or $100 an hour for your services, 15% of that off the top is going to be going to self-employment tax. And on top of that, you have federal and state. So for most people, it adds up to somewhere between 25 and 45%, depending on what state you live in. And so if you don't, if you're head in the sand and you're not thinking about that, you're going to get to the end of the year and realize that you really got paid a lot less than you think you got paid. And you're going to also end up with a surprise tax bill. So taking the time up front to understand what your personal tax rate is and building that into your rate structure with your clients so that your take home is what you anticipated is probably the number one mistake I see making.
Yeah.
The second mistake is not making estimated quarterly payments. Mm-hmm. And so the IRS requires you to make estimated payments 4 times a year if you're self-employed. Basically, their philosophy is we earn when you earn. And when you work for an employer, your employer submits taxes every 2 weeks. But when you're self-employed, they give you a little bit of a break and they say, yeah, every 2 weeks is not quite reasonable, but we are going to ask you to submit what you owe every quarter. And if you don't, there is a penalty. We're going to charge you interest on that money that you should have paid us for the rest of the year. And so you're not going to go to jail, but at the end of the year, you're going to end up having to pay interest on those taxes that you would have owed the government ahead of time. And so if you don't make those quarterly payments, you'll end up paying more in taxes than you should have. But also you're just delaying that liability to the end of the year. And you're more and more likely to end up with a surprise tax bill, right? And you're not really you're not spending as you earn.
Yes. And that big tax bill can probably be a huge blow to people financially if they're not anticipating it.
It is. I mean, it's just like anything. Like our natural nature is to think kind of cash based. You see the money into my account and you go, oh, that's my money to spend. And even if you think, oh, I'm probably going to have a tax bill later in the year, it's really better just to get that money over to the IRS once a quarter, make those estimated payments. And there's really good reasons why people don't make those estimated payments. The number one reason is they don't know how much to pay.
Mm.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to make this year. I don't know what I owe in taxes. So how could I make an estimated payment? CPAs usually charge a lot of money to do those calculations for you. If you try to use the IRS spreadsheet, you'd probably pass out in confusion. And so that's one of the things that our app does. It helps you calculate what those estimated quarterly taxes are based on what you earn. So you kind of remove one of those blockers from your reasons why not doing it.
And that sounds like one of the big benefits of this app is taking that worry off of you and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is power. And half the reason we don't do things is because they're hard, they're complicated, or they're depressing, right? Yeah. And, we try to create like the easy button for taxes, right? So, the first mistake I talked about, which is just not knowing what your tax rate, our app, asks you a few questions and then it tells you, Leslie, like based on what you're telling me about your business and where you live, you're going to have to set aside 19% of every, dollar you make. So every $100 you make, you're going to have to set aside 19% for taxes. So at the beginning of the year going in, you've got that in your mind. And then the second thing we do is when you make those estimated payments, we're calculating it along the year. So we're always telling you for Q1, for Q2, for Q3, for Q4, this is what you're going to owe. And there's an easy button where you can click pay and it sends that money to the IRS. Now you don't have to use our app to do that. You can use a spreadsheet, right? But sometimes, making things a little bit more convenient. Automation is a big theme we talk about in self-employment and freelancing and being a solopreneur. The more things you can automate that are not in your zone of genius, the better. And so, we really encourage people to automate it. I want to talk about one more mistake, actually two more mistakes. One more mistake I make, and that ties into another thing our app does, but I think it's really important to do this even if you don't use a service for it, is to actually put those tax funds in a separate bank account when you get paid.
Okay.
And so as you are earning, as you're getting payouts from your clients, open a separate savings account and move that, you get $100 check from a client, move $19 in that tax account. So you're not commingling those funds and you're never confused about what you have available to pay yourself. And I have had a lot of our customers say, well, not only have I not accidentally spent my tax money, which is good, right? So I have those fund saved account, but I also have felt more confident paying myself because it's not a mystery of what funds are actually mine. I see that, okay, I've set aside money for taxes. Maybe you even have another account that you've set aside funds for paying contractors or paying expenses. And the goal is you now have so much clarity about, oh, this is my money. And now I feel confident paying myself and investing in my business. And so that's the third mistake I see in the big recommendation that I make, which is physically move that money to another account so that over the course of the year, you're not commingling your revenue with your taxes.
Right. Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah. And the last one is do everything in I see a lot of people not take advantage of all of the credits and deductions the IRS has available to them. They think like, oh, well, I'm not making enough money, or, I can't really afford a CPA, or my taxes just aren't going to be that high. And they just leave so much money on the table. A couple really deductions I see people miss a lot. The first one is the home office deduction. It doesn't matter if you're working in your closet. In today's world where everyone's working from home and you have internet and utilities and landscaping and all of the things going on in your home, it's really important that you take a percentage of those expenses and deduct it from your self-employed income. And the other one that I just think is a win-win is tax-free retirement. That's actually my favorite self-employed hack, because for every dollar that you put in a retirement account, like an IRA or a self-employed retirement account, you get that back as a tax credit. And so you're lowering your taxes this year, which is like more money in your pocket this year, while at the same time, you're planning for the long term. because we're all going to need, none of us really want to work, I think, full time until we're 85. And so, again, without a traditional company opening up a 401k or a pension for you, it's really important that you're putting that money away for retirement, but also that you're not paying taxes on profit that unnecessarily. So knowing what those deductions are and having, a resource, whether it's, using the internet, using a tool like Ruby Money to really know what are those top deductions. We actually have a worksheet that I'll send you, Leslie, that you can share with your community, which is like top 50 deductions for solopreneurs. And there's so many things there that you're like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Right.
Simply having those in your mind and creating a little spreadsheet by the end of the year, you can really save yourself a lot in taxes.
Yeah, that would be fabulous. I think that would be very, very helpful for people. Okay, so tell us now, what is the long-term vision for Ruby Money? Where do you see it going? How do you see it affecting the freelancing industry? Do you see any key trends or anything?
Yeah, I mean, the world has been forever changed by, COVID, the advent of remote work, and all of the new technology that is enabling people to distribute their knowledge throughout the world on a global scale. And I think women especially are rejecting these old models of work and really embracing entrepreneurship. According to Upwork's recent report that they did on the freelance economy, over 40% of millennials had freelance income last year. And corporations are also turning to freelancers and fractional workers, with over 66% of them expecting to increase their uses of individual talent over the next 2 years. So you have companies that historically embraced only full-time workforces starting to more and more embrace the usage of independent talent. And then on the talent side, you have more and more super smart, talented millennials and Gen Z who are saying, wait a second, maybe I don't want to work for a company full-time. Maybe I want to put together a different type of career. I want to do multiple things, or I want to spend time with my kids as well. So you're seeing those trends really change. And everyone now has an opportunity to become an entrepreneur. This explosion, however, is leading to a demand for services and tools that enable solo business owners, right? Hire My Mom is exact one of them. Like, how do you find the right organizations and the right talent to work for in this new workforce? The traditional recruiting tools don't make sense anymore. And then on the talent side, on the worker side, the traditional business tools don't make sense anymore. Most of these big tools and service providers, they cater to organizations with tons of people, staff accountants, their own HR team. If you think about those big kind of enterprise tools that small businesses use, the learning curve is way too steep. The prices are too high and the functions are too complicated for today's solo business owner, right? You really are running a business of one. And so I believe that a new generation of tools and services like Ruby Money, like Hire My Mom, are being designed for solo business owners, and they'll offer low cost, powerful automation, and they'll have zero learning curve. The last thing I see a change in has been society's view of self-employed work. I think we've heard the term mompreneur before, and historically, like, freelancers were viewed as kind of inferior to their corporate full-time counterparts. And I think that view has really shifted. And now it's both considered savvy and desirable to be a solopreneur, to be a fractional executive, to be a freelancer, to have a side hustle. And I think that is just going to fuel the trends I just talked about previously, now that you have both the technology shift, the business model shift, and the societal shift all happening at the same time.
Right. Yes, I 100% agree. Back when I started working from home over 25 years ago, it was like I didn't tell people that I worked from home because it was so frowned upon. You weren't considered professional if you worked from home. So I would always say, I'll meet you at your office. And the client always agreed to that because it was convenient for them. So that's how I worked around it until, like you said, our societal changes. Now it's like, oh, you work at home? How awesome. So big mind shift.
Absolutely.
Shift.
Yeah, now everyone's just comparing Zoom backgrounds, right? Oh.
Yeah, right. That's so true. Okay, so I'm going to put all of the details under our video here in the comments so people don't have to try to remember where to find you and to learn more, but go ahead and share where people can learn more about Ruby Money.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few ways. Our website is rubymoney.us, and on there, there's a ton of free resources. There's a tax calculator that can help you calculate your tax rate. There's a retirement calculator that can help you calculate what you can contribute to retirement, and all kinds of guides to read. In addition, that's where you'll see our mobile app. Our app is available on iOS devices, so you can download it from the App Store. But if you just go to our website, there'll be a link there. And the mobile app is free to get started. Like within 5 minutes, you can connect the Ruby Money service to your bank account. We'll record your self-employed income. We'll calculate your taxes in real time. We'll send you reminders about deductions. We'll send you reminders when your quarterly estimates are due, and we'll send you estimates for what those quarterlies are. We have a premium plan, which people can opt into, that is $20 a month or $200 for the year. And that enables you to have access to our team of tax pros if you need support throughout the year, as well as make those quarterly payments within the app and set aside a dedicated tax savings accounts. So we want to make sure that there's a version of the app that's available to everybody, depending, regardless of how much you earn or how much you work. And then, you can step up if you need. For your community, Leslie, we've talked about creating a special offer for your community. So for anybody that wants to give Ruby Money a try, we've created a special code, which is Hire My Mom. And if you use that on our checkout page for our premium subscription, you'll get 50% off your first month.
Yes.
And then we offer one-on-one consults with anyone for free. And Leslie will have a link to that. So if you're not sure if the product is right for you, or you just have some questions about taxes, we love talking to entrepreneurs. We love giving people education and really helping them feel empowered to make smart financial decisions. And ultimately, our mission is to make female entrepreneurship sustainable. And sustainable means you're profitable, but also you have fun, right? And like my proudest moments is hearing like, you've helped make entrepreneurship easier for me, more fun for me, less stressful for me. And I think you have to really build a village. And you're an important part about your community's village, and you have to create a village around you of tools and people that understand you and are really there to see you grow and succeed. And we're just like so thrilled to be a part of the village with your community, Leslie.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share this with our community because I do think it's going to just take a lot of stress off of people's shoulders and be a great tool for them. So thank you so much for coming alongside me and sharing this. So I know people would not really understand what the app was all about without kind of getting the background information that you've shared here. So thank you for your time. And I look forward to seeing how many of our community take advantage of this great offer.
Me too. Thank you so much, Leslie, for having this chat with me.